The bouquet of roses I held felt like a heavy stone in my hands, not a gesture of love. I had driven for hours, my heart aching with worry for my sick sister, but also filled with the warmth of returning home to my husband, Mark. We had been married for 38 years. 38 years of shared laughter, quiet comfort, and the unspoken promise of forever. But as I gently pushed open the bedroom door, hoping to surprise him with my early arrival, it was I who was surprised. There, in our bed, was Mark, and tangled in the sheets with him was Elena, our 32-year-old neighbor. The same Elena who had cried on my shoulder countless times about her own marital problems. The same Elena I had advised, comforted, and treated like a daughter. I didn't make a sound. I didn't scream. I didn't even drop the flowers. I simply backed away, my heart shattering into a million pieces, yet a strange cold resolve settling in. They had no idea I had seen them. They thought I was still hundreds of miles away. And for a fleeting moment, I actually considered forgiving him. After all, 38 years was a long time to just throw away. But that fleeting moment of forgiveness would soon turn into a burning inferno, because they had no idea that their secret affair was about to cost them everything they thought they had. My name is Anna, and at 62, I believed in the enduring power of love and commitment. Mark and I had built a life together, brick by brick, memory by memory. We had weathered financial storms, personal losses, and the subtle challenges that time inevitably brings to any long-term relationship. I had always believed our bond was unbreakable, a testament to what true partnership looked like. When Elena moved in next door a few years ago, she was like a breath of fresh, youthful air. She was vibrant, beautiful, and seemed so lost, always confiding in me about her difficult marriage to David. "He's so emotionally distant, Anna," she would lament, sipping tea in my sunlit kitchen. "I just feel so alone." I listened. I offered advice. I shared stories from my own marriage, hoping to give her perspective. I even encouraged her to talk to David, to work through their issues. I saw myself in her, a young woman navigating the complexities of adult relationships, and I felt a strong desire to mentor her, to be the older, wiser friend she seemed to crave. Mark, always quiet and reserved, never seemed to mind Elena's frequent visits. He would nod politely, offer her a cup of coffee if I was busy, and then retreat to his study. I assumed he was simply being a good neighbor. The call from my sister, Clara, came 2 weeks ago. She needed me. A sudden illness had left her weak and needing constant care. Mark, ever the supportive husband, insisted I go. "Family comes first, Anna. I'll be fine here. Don't worry about a thing." His kiss on my forehead felt genuine, his embrace warm and comforting. I left with a peaceful heart, believing my home and my husband were safe. My journey back was filled with anticipation. Clara had made a swift recovery, and I was eager to surprise Mark. I imagined his face lighting up, his arms wrapping around me in a tight embrace. The roses were my small gesture of renewed affection, a symbol of our enduring love. But the scene in our bedroom, the intimate tangle of limbs, the hushed laughter, and the unmistakable scent of Elena's cheap perfume mingling with Mark's aftershave tore through that image like a cruel blade. For a split second, my world fractured. The air left my lungs, and a cold wave of nausea washed over me. Yet I didn't react. The years of maturity, of weathering life's storms kicked in. I thought of our history, our shared dreams, the decades of loyalty. "It's just a mistake," I told myself, trying to rationalize the betrayal. A moment of weakness. He'll regret it. It's not worth throwing away 38 years. I backed away silently, my every instinct screaming to confront them, but a deeper, more primal part of me urged caution. I retreated from the house, got back into my car, and drove aimlessly. The roses lay discarded on the passenger seat, their petals already wilting, mirroring the state of my heart. For hours I drove, processing the unthinkable. Could I forgive him? The thought was agonizing. My husband, my partner, with the woman I had welcomed into my home. The idea of divorce, of tearing our lives apart, felt like a punishment for me. I had invested so much. I still loved him, or at least the man I thought he was. I decided then I would forgive him. I would pretend I never saw anything. I would give him a chance to end it, to come back to me, to our life. This was Mark, after all, my Mark. He would realize his mistake. It had to be just a fleeting, meaningless affair. I arrived back home an hour later, making sure to announce my presence loudly this time. Mark met me at the door, his face a little flushed but otherwise composed. "Anna, you're really home," he said, embracing me. His hug felt hollow. I could still smell her on him, a phantom scent that now clung to every breath I took. "Yes, darling, Clara's doing wonderfully. I just couldn't wait to get back to you," I lied, my voice steady, my eyes meeting his. He looked away, just for a second, a flicker of guilt in his eyes. Over the next few weeks, I played the part of the devoted, oblivious wife. I cooked his favorite meals, listened to his mundane stories about work, and even joined him for our usual evening walks around the neighborhood. All the while, my senses were heightened. I noticed how he would check his phone furtively, how his gaze would linger a moment too long on Elena's house when we passed it. Elena, too, continued her charade. She would stop by, ostensibly to check on Anna, her eyes darting around our living room as if assessing potential spoils. She would giggle with Mark about some inside joke, then quickly catch herself, trying to appear innocent. I watched, and I waited. I kept telling myself it would end, that it was just a phase, that Mark would come to his senses. But it didn't end. It intensified. I overheard hushed phone calls from Mark in the study, his voice low and conspiratorial. "Yes, baby, I'm working on it. She won't suspect a thing. Soon we'll be together." Then came the day Elena, in her usual innocent guise, accidentally left her phone on my kitchen counter. I picked it up, intending to return it, but a notification flashed across the screen. A text from Mark. "Can't wait until she's out of the picture, my love. Then our life together truly begins. This house will be perfect for us." My heart didn't break this time. It solidified into a block of ice. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning a future. My future. In my house. The forgiveness I had so painstakingly constructed, the hope I had clung to, shattered into a million sharp shards. It wasn't a temporary lapse. It was a deliberate, malicious plot. They weren't just betraying my love. They were trying to steal my entire existence. In that moment, the forgiving Anna died a swift, merciless death. A new Anna rose from the ashes, one who understood that some betrayals cannot be forgiven. They must be avenged. And the revenge would be so complete, so devastating, that they wouldn't just lose my house, they would lose everything they thought they had. Part 2. The architect of her own freedom. I stood in my kitchen, holding Elena's phone as if it were a poisonous viper. The text message from my husband, Mark, burned into my retinas. This house will be perfect for us. They weren't just sharing a bed, they were measuring the curtains of my life. I carefully placed the phone back on the counter exactly where she had left it. A few minutes later, Elena came fluttering back into the room, breathless and forgetful. "Oh, Anna, I am such a scatterbrain," she chirped, grabbing the device. "I'd lose my head if it wasn't attached. Did I miss anything?" I looked her straight in the eyes, my face a mask of serene, grandmotherly kindness. "Not a thing, dear, just a quiet afternoon." As she walked away, waving her hand, I felt a coldness I had never known. For weeks I had tried to be the bigger person. I had prayed for my marriage. I had told myself that 38 years earned Mark a second chance. But you cannot give a second chance to someone who is already planning your funeral while you're still breathing. That night, Mark came home and kissed me. I didn't flinch. I let him play his role so that I could play mine. "Anna, you look tired," he said, pouring himself a drink. "Maybe we should think about simplifying things. This house is so big, all this maintenance. Sometimes I think it's too much for you." There it was, the first seed. He was trying to gasprint me into thinking I couldn't handle our home anymore, making it easier for him to suggest changes later. "Maybe you're right, honey," I said, tilting my head. "But I love this place. It's our legacy." Although I was reading about those new living trusts to protect everything from taxes and make sure it all stays in the family, we should probably look into that. Mark's ears practically perked up. "A trust? That sounds smart. It would keep everything secure, right?" "Exactly," I whispered. "Secure." The next morning, I didn't go to the grocery store. I went to see a lawyer in the next county, someone who didn't know Mark, someone who wouldn't feel the need to make a friendly phone call. "I want to sell the house," I told the lawyer, "and I want to do it through a private sale. I have a buyer, a developer who has been eyeing this corner lot for years. But here's the catch. My husband needs to believe he's signing a document to put the house into a protective trust for our shared future." The lawyer looked at me concerned. "Mrs. Miller, if he doesn't understand what he's signing, that could be contested." "Oh, he'll understand that he's giving up his rights," I said, a sharp edge entering my voice. "I'm going to tell him it's a strategy to protect our assets from a potential lawsuit I'm worried about regarding my sister's medical debts. He's so eager to get his hands on the deed that he won't look at the fine print that says the proceeds of any future sale go 100% to a private account in my name only." I spent the next week gathering every piece of evidence of their affair. I didn't need it for a judge. I needed it for my soul. I watched them through the window. I saw Elena's husband, David, leave for work every morning, a hard-working man who had no idea his wife was a predator. I felt sorry for him, but I had my own war to win. I began to move money, slowly, in small increments that wouldn't trigger an alert. I sold off stocks that were in my name. I emptied the safe deposit box of the heirlooms that Mark didn't even remember we had. The most difficult part was the silence. Sitting across from him at dinner, watching him check his watch, knowing he was waiting for me to go to bed so he could slip out to the backyard to meet her. "You're very quiet tonight, Anna," Mark said, cutting into his steak. "Just thinking about the future, Mark. It's amazing how quickly things can change, isn't it?" "It is," he said, a smirk playing on his lips. He thought he was the one in control. He thought I was a pathetic aging woman who was too blinded by love to see the truth. He had no idea that I was no longer his wife. I was his bookkeeper, and I was about to close his account forever. The papers were ready on Friday. I brought them home in a professional-looking blue folder. I waited until Mark had a glass of wine in him, just enough to make him agreeable, but not enough to make him suspicious. "Honey, I got those trust documents ready," I said, laying them on the coffee table. "The lawyer said if we get this done today, we can stop worrying about the house being touched by any outside claims. It puts everything in a protected status." Mark took the pen. He didn't even read the second page. Why would he? He thought he had already won. He thought this was the step that would eventually let me push him out. "For our future," he said, scribbling his signature with a flourish. "For the future you deserve," I corrected him, my heart hammering in my chest as I took the pen and signed my own name. The house was sold 2 hours later with a digital signature sent to the developer. The closing was set for 30 days. 30 days of living in a house that was no longer mine. 30 days to watch them dream of a life that was already a ghost. But the most interesting part happened that weekend. Elena came over, looking more glowing than usual. "Anna, I have news," she whispered, acting as if we were still best friends. "I think I'm finally going to leave David. I found someone else, someone who truly appreciates me, someone with stability." "Stability is so important, Elena, especially at your age. You wouldn't want to end up with someone who has nothing to offer but empty promises." "Oh, he has plenty to offer," she said, her eyes glancing toward my husband's study. "We're going to have a very comfortable life." I smiled. It was the most honest smile I'd given in years. "I'm sure you will get exactly what is coming to you, Elena, both of you." As she left, I looked around my living room, the photos on the mantel, the rug we bought in Italy, the chair where I had spent thousands of hours reading. It was all just wood and fabric now. The home was already gone. All that was left was to wait for the moment to pull the rug out from under their dancing feet. I wasn't just getting a divorce. I was conducting an exorcism. The air in the house felt thin, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. For 30 days, I had lived as a ghost. I had watched Mark and Elena share secret glances in the driveway, their faces filled with a smug, youthful arrogance. They thought they were the masters of this universe. They thought they were playing me. But the final documents had cleared. The money from the sale of the house was sitting safely in a private trust, and the title had been transferred to the development company. I was ready. I decided to invite Elena over for dinner, one last family meal. Mark was surprised. "A dinner with Elena? I thought you were tired, Anna." "I want to clear the air, Mark. We've all been so tense lately," I said, setting the table with my finest china. The china I had already technically sold to an antique dealer who was coming to collect it tomorrow. When Elena arrived, she looked radiant. She was wearing a new dress, likely bought with the business expense money Mark had been siphoning from our joint account. She sat down, her eyes scanning the room as if she were already deciding which wall to tear down first. We ate in a heavy, suffocating silence until I set my fork down. The clink of metal against porcelain sounded like a gunshot. "I know," I said softly. Mark froze, a piece of bread halfway to his mouth. Elena's glass stopped at her lips. "Know what, Anna?" Mark asked, his voice trembling with a forced laugh. "I know about the two of you," I said, looking from one to the other. I kept my voice calm, devoid of the screaming rage they expected. "I've known since the day I came back early from Claris. I saw you in our bedroom." Elena turned a shade of gray I didn't know was possible. Mark's face went bright red. He opened his mouth to lie. It was his reflex after all. But I raised my hand to silence him. Don't insult the 38 years we spent together with a cheap lie. I'm not here to yell. I'm not here to beg you to stay, Mark. In fact, I'm here to tell you that I'm leaving." A flash of pure, unadulterated relief crossed Elena's face. She couldn't hide it. It was the look of a vulture that had finally been told the lion was moving on. "Anna, I never meant it to go this far," Mark stammered, though his eyes were already darting to Elena, seeking support. "It doesn't matter what you meant," I replied. "What matters is that you found something in her that you felt you lacked with me. And Elena, you found a stability in Mark that you didn't have with David. I realized that if I fought for this marriage, I'd be fighting for a hollow shell. So I'm giving you what you want. I'm stepping aside. I've already packed my things. I'm leaving tonight." "Tonight?" Mark asked, his voice rising with a mix of guilt and excitement. "But what about the divorce? The house?" I smiled, a slow, gentle smile that hid the venom underneath. "I've handled the paperwork, Mark. You remember those trust documents you signed? They ensure that our assets are handled according to the plan we discussed. Since you want to start a new life here with Elena, I won't stand in your way. I'm taking my personal savings and moving on. You can have the life you've been building behind my back." Elena reached across the table and grabbed Mark's hand. "Anna, I know this is hard, but thank you for being so mature about this. We really do love each other." "I'm sure you do," I said, standing up. "You two deserve each other, truly. You deserve every single thing that is coming your way." I walked out of the dining room, leaving them sitting there in the glow of the chandelier. I could hear them whispering as soon as I hit the stairs. They weren't mourning the end of a marriage. They were celebrating the acquisition of a prize.
Upstairs, I took my 2 suitcases, the only things I was taking from this life. I didn't need the furniture. I didn't need the memories. I had the money, and I had my dignity. As I walked down the stairs, I saw them through the kitchen doorway. They were already clinking glasses. "To our new beginning," I heard Mark say. "To our house," Elena added. I walked out the front door and didn't look back. I got into my car and drove to a hotel near the airport. My flight to the coast was in the morning. But I wasn't just going to disappear. I had installed one last thing before the dinner: a high-definition, cloud-based security system with cameras hidden in the smoke detectors. I wanted to see the exact moment the dream turned into a nightmare. The next morning, the real drama began. I woke up in my hotel room, opened my laptop, and logged into the camera feed. It was 8 a.m. In the driveway of the house next door, I saw David, Elena's husband, loading a suitcase into his car. He looked devastated. Elena was standing on the porch, arms crossed, watching him leave with a look of cold triumph. She had done it. She had ended her marriage to move into the mansion next door. As soon as David's car cleared the driveway, Elena literally ran across the lawn to my front door. Mark met her there, pulling her into a kiss. "It's ours, baby," Mark said, his voice carrying through the microphone. "All ours. She's gone and she's never coming back." "Let's see the safe, Mark," Elena said, her eyes gleaming with greed.
You said there were bonds, jewelry. Everything is in the study, Mark promised. They disappeared inside, and I watched through the interior cameras. They went straight to the wall safe. Mark punched in the code. He pulled the door open. Empty. Not even a paperclip was left inside. "Where is it?" Elena hissed, her voice losing its sweetness. "Mark, where is the jewelry?" She must have taken it," Mark said, his voice trembling. "But it doesn't matter. We have the house. This property alone is worth $2 million. "You're right," Elena said, calming down as she stroked the mahogany desk. "The house is the real prize. We'll sell it and move to the city." I leaned back against my pillows and took a sip of my coffee. "Oh, Mark," I whispered to the screen, "wait until you hear the knock at the door." It happened 30 minutes later. A white SUV pulled into the driveway. A man in a suit got out, carrying a briefcase. Behind him, 2 large trucks with the words "Max Demolition and Clearance" pulled up to the curb. Mark and Elena went to the window, their faces filled with confusion. "Who is that?" Elena asked. "I don't know," Mark said, heading for the front door. "Probably some delivery for Anna that I'll have to cancel." He opened the door, Elena right behind him, her hand possessively on his shoulder. "Can I help you?" Mark asked. "Mr. Miller? My name is Sarah Jennings. I'm the project manager for Apex Development. We're here to begin the interior strip-out. The demolition permits were finalized this morning." The silence that followed was the most beautiful thing I had ever heard. Through the lens of the hidden camera, I watched the color drain from Mark's face. He stood in the doorway, his hand still resting on the frame of the house he thought he owned. Behind him, Elena's smug expression shifted into a mask of pure confusion, then sharp alarm. "Demolition?" Mark stammered, his voice cracking. You have the wrong house. This is a private residence. I'm the owner." The project manager didn't even flinch. She pulled a tablet from her briefcase and swiped through a few screens. "Mr. Mark Miller, you signed the transfer of interest and the sale authorization 30 days ago. The Phoenix Trust, which was the temporary holding entity, sold this property to Apex Development. The closing was finalized yesterday. As of 8 a.m. this morning, this structure is scheduled for clearing." "I signed a trust," Mark screamed, his face turning a dangerous shade of purple. "To protect the house, not to sell it." "I suggest you read what you sign, Mr. Miller," the manager said coldly. "The documents were very clear. You granted full power of sale to your wife, Anna Miller, and she executed that sale. The funds have already been dispersed to her private accounts. Now we have a schedule to keep. My crew is here to remove the copper piping and the fixtures. You have 20 minutes to get your personal belongings out." Elena pushed past Mark, her voice shrill and echoing through the hallway. "Wait! What about the money? The $2 million? Mark, where is the money?" Mark didn't answer. He couldn't. He was staring at the demolition trucks as if they were monsters from a nightmare. He frantically pulled his phone from his pocket and dialed my number. In my hotel room, I watched my phone light up. I didn't answer. I just watched the screen. Pick up, Anna," he yelled into the dead air. He tried again and again. Then he tried to log into our joint bank account. The silence that followed was even more deafening than his screams. I had closed that account 3 days ago. Every cent, the savings from my years as a teacher, the inheritance from my parents, and the proceeds from the house, was gone.
It was sitting in a trust that Mark couldn't touch if he lived to be 100. Elena saw his face and knew the stability she had traded her husband David for was a mirage. The rich older man she had seduced was just a man in a borrowed house with an empty pocket. "Mark?" Elena whispered, her voice no longer sweet. "Mark, tell me you have the money in another account. Tell me this is some kind of mistake."
"She took it," Mark whispered, his knees finally giving out. He slumped against the wall. "She took everything, the house, the money, everything." "You idiot!" Elena's scream was so loud the microphone clipped. She didn't comfort him. She didn't tell him they would get through this together. She lunged at him, shoving his shoulder. "You signed the house away? How could you be so stupid? I left David for this. I have nothing now because of you." "You left David because you're a gold digger," Mark snapped back, finding a spark of rage in his desperation. "You were never here for me. You just wanted the zip code." The workers didn't wait for their drama to end. They began carrying boxes of tools into the living room. One man started unscrewing the crystal chandelier, the one Elena had admired just the night before. "Hey, that's worth $10,000, Elena yelled at the worker. "It belongs to the company now, lady," the man grunted, not even looking at her. "Move out of the way. We're taking the kitchen appliances next." I watched as Elena ran to the kitchen, trying to stop them from taking the professional-grade stove. She was frantic, her hair disheveled, a far cry from the perfect neighbor who used to sip tea and talk about her feelings. When the worker pushed past her, she turned on Mark like a feral cat. "I am not staying here for this," she shrieked. "I have a reputation. I have a life." "Where are you gonna go, Elena?" Mark asked, his voice hollow. "You told David it was over. You told him you were moving in here." "I'll go back to him. I'll tell him it was a mistake. I'll tell him you tricked me," she yelled, grabbing her designer handbag, likely the last expensive thing she owned. She ran out the front door, her heels clicking frantically on the driveway. I switched the camera feed to the outdoor view. I saw her run across the lawn to her old house. She pounded on the door. "David! David, open up! It was a mistake! I'm sorry!" The door opened. David stood there, his eyes red from crying, but his expression was cold. He didn't say a word. He just pointed to the curb. There, sitting in the grass, were 3 garbage bags filled with Elena's clothes. He didn't give her a chance to speak. He slammed the door and turned the deadbolt. I heard the sound of the lock through the outdoor microphone. It was the sound of a bridge burning. Elena stood on the sidewalk, surrounded by garbage bags, while next door the sound of hammers began to echo through the house she thought would be her palace. Mark came out a moment later, still in his slippers, clutching a framed photo of us from 20 years ago. It was the only thing the workers let him take. He looked at Elena. She looked at him. There was no love there, only pure, unadulterated loathing. I leaned back and exhaled. I had thought I wanted revenge, but as I watched them standing there in the ruins of their greed, I realized I didn't feel vengeful. I felt light. The show was almost over. There was only one thing left to do. I watched the screen for a few more minutes as Mark and Elena stood on the sidewalk, 2 strangers bound only by a shared mistake. The demolition crew began boarding up the windows, and the first sounds of heavy machinery echoed through the quiet street. I closed my laptop slowly. I had seen enough. I had a taxi waiting to take me to the airport, but before I left the hotel room, I picked up my phone. I unblocked Mark's number, but I didn't call him. I sent a single message. "Mark, I don't hate you. I don't even hold a grudge anymore. Carrying that anger would only slow me down, and I have a long journey ahead of me. I forgive you for being human, but I also respect myself enough to never let you hurt me again. The house is gone, the money is safe, and our life together is a finished chapter. Don't look for me. Use this emptiness to find out who you really are when you aren't pretending. I blocked him again, not out of malice, but for peace. 3 months later, I was sitting on a terrace in a small village in the south of Italy. The sun was warm on my shoulders, and the smell of jasmine filled the air. My sister, Clara, was sitting across from me, her eyes bright with health. We weren't talking about the past. We were planning a trip to Greece. I had spent a lot of time thinking about those final days. People often confuse forgiveness with weakness. They think that to forgive means to allow the person back into your life or to let them keep what they stole. But I learned that true forgiveness is different. I forgave Mark because I didn't want to wake up every morning with his face as the first thing in my mind. I didn't want to be a bitter ex-wife. Anger is a fire that burns the person holding the torch. By letting go of the resentment, I extinguished the fire. But perverting justice? No, I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. I protected my future because I deserved to be safe. I took what was mine because I worked for it. You can forgive a thief and still make sure he doesn't have the keys to your new house. I heard from a mutual friend that Mark is living in a small studio apartment, working as a security guard. He's lonely, but he's safe. Elena, on the other hand, disappeared shortly after David refused to take her back. Last I heard, she was moving from city to city, looking for the next stability that will never come because she carries her own chaos with her. I don't wish them ill. I simply don't wish for them at all. I looked out at the Mediterranean Sea, the blue water stretching into infinity. My bank account was full, but my heart was even fuller. I had reclaimed my name, my time, and my soul. I wasn't 62 and discarded. I was 62 and just beginning. If there is one thing I want you to take away from my story, it's this: never be afraid to protect yourself, but never let a betrayal turn your heart to stone. Justice is about setting things right. Peace is about letting go of the pain. You can do both. You can be strong and kind at the same time. If my journey inspired you today, please hit that like button. It helps me share these stories of strength with others who might still be feeling lost in the dark. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Justice Not Revenge. Join our community, where we believe that even life's most painful twists are meant to lead us exactly where we need to be. I'll see you in the next story. Thank you for watching, for listening, and for believing that it's never too late to start over. Until next time, take care of your heart and your future.